Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast explores the transition to net zero and the systems driving real change in how we move, live and power our world. Every week I sit down with the people leading that change, those offering insight, innovation and impact in many ways people don't fully see until they hear their stories. If you're ready for real conversations that inspire action and drive change, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey. Let's cut through the noise and build a better future together. So today I have with me a wonderful, wonderful lady, and I've known her for a couple of years now, Kirsty Pendleton, and she's the head of B2B Marketing at the AA. Kirsty, thank you ever so much for joining me, my darling.
Thank you for having me.
So she's sat, and if you're listening, you won't be able to see this, but she's sat in the AA studio, their little podcasting studio, looking gorgeous.
Well, the studio definitely looks gorgeous. It's our new office and we've got this lovely studio and I'm really lucky to be allowed to be in here today. I've got no technicians, it's just me, so if anything breaks it's entirely my fault.
We just don't touch anything now.
I can't move.
Right.
Stay very still.
Right. So next month, Kirsty, you are celebrating 25 years at the AA, and that's just gobsmacked me when we were talking just before we started recording. 25 years. I mean, that's a life sentence, but you've obviously loved it. Tell us a little bit about what you've done while you've been there.
Do you know, it's weird, isn't it? 25 years. And I say this to people, and it's still true, even now that occasionally there'll be a meeting that I'm in where I am still the new girl. We've got... So people who honestly have their whole careers at the AA, and I think that is a massive testament to the people here and the organisation and what we do and how important it is and how beloved it is to lots of people out there. 25 years, which has kind of flown, but it's never the same. That's why I'm still here. I've been in B2B all that time. I spent 3 years as brand guardian, which I did alongside the B2B, because everybody at the AA has 1 or 2 or 3 extra jobs on the go. But yeah, it's all been B2B, but it's never, it never gets samey. Whenever things start to get stable, then we pivot and we do new things. And, as the sign says, we're always ahead and we're always ahead. I may have been here for 25 years, but the AA's been here for 120 years this year. So AA is celebrating a big birthday this year. And it's constant evolution of what we do and working with amazing different customers and partners and the people here who are they're just the best. I was going to say, I bet you've seen so many things change. Like you said, you're quite agile, aren't you? The way that you kind of move around, but I bet that the kind of the way that the AA as an organisation has changed has been massive over those 25 years. Yeah, I mean, we obviously at the core of what we do are the things that we're famous for. Right? We're obviously famous for breakdown cover. If you say the AA to people, then 90-something% of people will say breakdown cover. But more than that, I guess, at the core of the AA, and it's in our original crest from all those years ago, are the words courtesy and care. And it's that sort of courtesy and care that runs through what we do, and which is why we're so good at customer service, and which is why we win prizes for customer service. And it's in the core of all the people that are here. And we use a phrase, we say you're yellow-blooded if you come here and you kind of get the bug. So that kind of yellow core. But I mean, if you think about the things that we're now doing, the diversification, particularly in B2B, it's not just service at the roadside. It's not just helping when things go wrong. It's that whole fleet life cycle, really. It's that whole life cycle of vehicles with, whether it's working with OEMs or whether it's working with lease cos or rental cos, and now, of course, diversifying into keeping people moving in their electric vehicles with the support that we're giving to CPOs behind the scenes on customer service. So, changing all the time, and that's why people stay here a long time, I think.
And I was going to say, I've known you now probably for a couple of years. It might even be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And I met you down at Fully Charged, didn't I, in
Yes.
Farnborough, when
Yes.
it was still called, before it was called Everything Electric. It was Fully Charged, and we were kind of. I remember meeting you down there and having a good chat. I think my son might have even been with me.
Yes, I think it was, and my daughter. So yeah, it's a really good family event, Fully Charged. Yeah, no, we really like those events. There's always a big B2B focus usually on day one, and we go and meet partners and meet new people and get leads. But also then we actually get to meet the public, if you like. We get to meet people outside the industry. And although we're obviously focused on B2B commercially, it's so important to hear what drivers think and hear what, meeting your son was great. I think he was learning to drive, or he was trying to find a driving instructor.
I think he probably was.
Yeah, but that's fully mobile now.
No, he's not. No, that's another story.
Oh, no.
That's a complete other story. It was a really bad choice of driving instructor.
Oh.
Yeah, but anyway, it's just one of those things. So any driving instructors out there who no, I don't even know whether he'd entertain it while he's at uni just at the moment anyway. So yes, that was a real shame. But let's talk about when did you get the marketing buzz? When was it? What was it that did it for you?
It's a really good question, actually, because I never set out to be a marketer. And I think, actually, for many years in my career, I was still kind of thinking, what am I going to do when I grow up? So you still feel like you're kind of thinking and casting around. But no, I didn't. I don't have my degree is in English.
Okay.
So I guess communication. I suppose communication is the thing. But I was really interested in drama. I did a bit of drama. So my first job was in a theatre and arts centre, and it happened to be doing marketing, and and I think the sort of the bit that appeals to me is that communication is taking the message and turning it into something that resonates with people. And from there, I worked in education marketing for a while, and then I did my marketing qualifications, and so then you learn the science behind the art, because I think marketing's a little bit of an art, but it's a lot of a science, right? Because you get budget, you get money to spend, and so there's a science to making sure that you're investing your money in the right way, and engaging people in the right way. And I think that engagement and communication is so important, particularly nowadays where we're all on social media. We expect a kind of more of a conversation without, marketing, I guess, back in the past was very much being promoted at, but that's not how it works anymore, right? It's an engagement, it's a conversation, it's having something interesting to say and saying it in a good way. So yeah, I have accidentally become a marketer. Imagine that.
But it's we were saying this before. It's storytelling. It's that kind of storytelling, and I think you've got to be authentic when you're telling stories, haven't you? Not kind of be all poncy or anything like that. It's about talking in a way in a article or a post that people, like you say, resonate with. They understand it, and they realise that you're not full of rubbish.
Yeah. I think that really is important, and it's having the right tone. We're a big organisation. We have an incredible brand team who put together our, visual identity, what we look like, our tone of voice, what we sound like. But it's done very carefully to represent who we are as the AA, and what we do. So we're conscious of that. But as people, as individuals, we're passionate about what we do, so that comes across, and I think that's really important.
And I was going to say, it's about, for you guys, like you say, you've been around for 125 years, and it's about that level of trust that everybody's had in the AA for such a long time. I talked to Edmund, because we had Edmund King on ages ago now, it seems, but And I remember my dad having an AA badge on his car, and and we did have to have have the AA come out to us one time. I remember I was probably about 11. We set off to go to Cornwall at some ridiculous hour from Halifax, probably about 12:30, 1 o'clock, because Dad knew the roads would be quiet then. So obviously a long time ago, and we had a puncture, and I don't think he had all the right things, and I'm sure we actually had to get the AA out, or we had some kind of breakdown anyway, and we had to get the AA out to sort us out. So yeah, lots of that just popped into my head then. I hadn't thought about that for a long time, but when you're doing long journeys and stuff, that's what you need.
Yeah,
you need the trust.
You do, actually, and particularly with when you break down, and if you're on your own and it's dark and you're on a country road, and there is something really, just such a reassurance of seeing that AA van come over the horizon and someone get out, and you know that they're going to be, you can trust them, they're going to be capable, they're going to be experts, and they're going to put you first. That's the thing. You make sure that the driver's okay, then you sort the vehicle out, and then you worry about the other stuff after that.
And I was going to say, I bet, because the AA, some of your patrol officers have been involved in the Guinness World Records that have kind of been going on with Sarah Sloman and Sam Clark on their on their electric motorbikes, with kind of Kevin Booker when he's kind of done, and Kevin and Sam when better not forget to add Sab in that bit. When they've kind of done the sort of the van stuff, and they've done
the van, car, and motorbike now. Yeah, and our patrols of the year have been in support. Being there, they have done a little bit of troubleshooting on those occasions, but again, just being there, in case anything goes wrong, but also because Sam and Kevin and Sarah, because for these record attempts, you're doing something you wouldn't usually do, right? You're pushing, you're going to the edge and over, which as an EV driver, just you don't do, right? You're very sensible, and you look at your slate and you think, oh no, I've only got 20 miles, I'm not going to be silly. But yeah, so at the end of that, being there to scoop everyone up and get the vehicles back and make sure everyone's warm and safe. So yeah, it's been really good. Actually, we've really enjoyed supporting that. It's just something. Again, like the Guinness World Records, they're a British institution, right? So it's been great for us to be involved.
And I love how you've been involved in so many different things. So you were saying before we started recording that you're on the Greenfleet Europa rally next week, aren't you? Not so yeah. The week that we're recording is kind of it's the 12th of May. And you're going over to Europe next week. Yeah. But then last year you were on the Greenfleet rally that I was a driver with Women Drive Electric. Yeah, and that was amazing.
I hopped into your pink car for one day, actually, for half a day. It was great. There's a really nice buzz in that car. Yeah.
No, it was. I did. It was funny because we were in, that was the main car, as you know, but I kind of skipped into other vehicles as well. So I was in with National Grid for kind of half a day as well. Yeah. So I think maybe you were in when I was in with National Grid.
Yeah, probably. I that's what's great about the rally, though. It's completely about those partnerships and about that kind of interlock. That's a word we use a lot at the AA at the moment, but it is about that sort of interlocking with other peers in the industry and other organisations, and that's when you have those conversations and you find points of similarity or points of difference or best practice. Yeah, I think I hopped in with Rich Parker of Webfleet for a while as well, because we both chose our favourite album to listen to. I don't think he expected to be listening to Kate Bush. But
oh, good on you.
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, I love that. It's funny, actually, because I never disconnected. This is a bit of a spicy tangent here, but I never disconnected my Spotify from the Tesla. I've totally forgot. Oh. And I looked at my stats. I realised all of a sudden, probably about 4 weeks later, I looked at my stats for Spotify and I was like, I haven't been listening to that. So how's that been happening? No. I don't listen to that kind of grime. I listen to indie pop. Well,
so is it someone still listening?
I disconnected it then when I realised, but the whole Greenfleet experience is amazing. So Tell me a little bit about, so you said to me before we were recording about how you're getting to the rally next week and where you're kind of going.
Well, so we've got 2 cars on the rally. We've got really exciting vehicles actually that we've been really lucky with partners to get to use. So we've got the new Ford Capri, which is going to be great, and a BYD Sea Lion 7. So we're kind of going, Ford, who've been a long-standing partner of ours, great, brilliant. We've got a car, and then BYD tries something new. But so there are 8 seats in the cars. I'm number 9. I'm hopping in, I think, with Ursula from Greenfleet once I get there. But I'm joining on day 2, so I'm going to get on the Eurostar. I didn't want to get on a flight because, too much carbon, too much CO2. So,
but you said, didn't you, that Eurostar gave you details of the carbon footprint?
They did, and it was I was really, really kind of pleasantly surprised. It felt like the right thing to do to get on the Eurostar. So, we get a bit of a contrast. Everyone else, bless them, are going to be doing all those clocking up all those rally miles and all those checkpoints, and they'll be seeing a lot of really interesting things. But I'll be in relative comfort, but at least for that first day, and then in with the teams for days 2 and 3.
Excellent. I mean, that's gonna be a really, really interesting journey, and I know that there's a number of countries. So remind me what country you're joining them in.
So I'm gonna get to Amsterdam on the Tuesday evening, and then I think we end up in Maastricht on the Wednesday evening. And I think we then end up in Brussels on the Thursday evening. But I am very much, in terms of where we're going, a passenger in this. So my role there is to, it's that storytelling, as you were saying, Liz, is to get the stories from the journey. So we've got a real mixed team of people. We've got Edmund, obviously, who's been around, not quite 120 years, but been around and been an EV driver for many, many years. And Esther, who looks after our CPOs. And then we've got our Drive Tech team, Jen Morris, who's been on all the rallies so far, and Madelon, who works with us for Drive Tech across Europe. We've got Ryan there, who's representing our ARC relationship, which is all the breakdown clubs across Europe that the AA is a founding partner of. I'm forgetting now. And then we've got Alistair, who looks after our BYD relationship. So we've got a real mixed group of people. So they're going to have so many different angles to talk about as we move through Europe. So my job and Clive's job, obviously mustn't forget Clive. He's the mastermind behind all of our events. Our job is to knit all those experiences together into stories and talk about those.
And that's always the thing, isn't it? It's kind of building that momentum and that sort of that information gathering and marketing to kind of prove to people, on social media, the ability of electric vehicles. Anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, so it is. It's a little bit of everything. Yeah, I think obviously, we've been involved in the Greenfleet rallies since the Scottish one.
Evros. That was
Evros. Yeah, do you know what? I had a mental block. Evros was the first one we did, and we've been involved ever since then. And I think even in that short time, just a few years, you've seen the evolution of the vehicles and the range on the vehicles, and the comfort and the convenience of the vehicles themselves, and you've seen the network improving, certainly in the UK. So it's going to be really interesting to contrast the infrastructure on the continent. So in a sense, that first kind of when we were doing going around Scotland, I think at that point our patrols of the year were in a prototype concept electric van. At that point, we didn't have any electric vans in our fleet. We now have a good number and a growing number and a whole sort of test and scale strategy to get where we need to be with that. But back then, it had a range of, it was a tiny range. It was probably about 120 miles or something compared to, the vehicles that we'll be using now. So there's a bit of that, testing the vehicles and the infrastructure, but I think for us it's really very much about the opportunity that journey gives us to look at what we do more widely across Europe and how we work with those other partners. So yeah, really looking forward to, I know there are some new partners on the rally this year, so getting to know those guys, and we all know that when you've done the rally, you come out at the end with friends for life.
Oh,
so
yeah,
looking
absolutely.
forward to meeting new people.
And you're usually shattered afterwards as well.
Completely.
No, I mean last year was kind of an amazing but tiring week, but it was just it was a fantastic experience. I'm really glad that I got the opportunity to kind of to be involved. So yeah, traveling across Europe would be fantastic doing this. So last year we, as a family, the Allans, we travelled to Brittany in our EV, and this year we're travelling into Spain and France. So we're getting the ferry from Portsmouth to Santander, which is 33 and a half hours.
But apparently it's wonderful.
When we get, oh God,
see dolphins and all sorts.
I can't. I can't wait. But then we're driving into Spain, and then we're actually going to a 25th wedding anniversary. So
wow.
so that'll be really good. And then driving back through Spain and France. So and I've already kind of looked a little bit at the charging infrastructure, and it kind of looks okay. So we shall see. We'll see, and you'll see next week, won't you? Kind of how it is.
And it'll be interesting. I mean, you've done it already, right? But I mean, the family and I, we've travelled through France so far in an ICE vehicle. We've not done it for a couple of years. And I speak French, but I still got that kind of nervousness about, well, when I get to the charge post, is it going to be different? Will I understand? Will I be able to follow the instructions? So, yeah, I think we're all going to be challenged in 5 different languages around Europe.
I do have a little suggestion for you. Use the Octopus Electriverse app, because it actually tells you when you're there whether you can. So because we have Octopus here anyway, and we've got an RFID card as well. But it literally says to you on the app, you can either charge, on the app, or you can charge with the RFID card. Brilliant. We never had any problems, and we've got a small range on our EV, so we get like about 200 miles in the summer, which was great because we kind of got, we got that. And my husband managed to get 7 miles per kilowatt hour, which
wow.
I never even managed. I think I managed to get to about 6.8, but he always,
he's competing with Kevin there.
I think Kevin's managed to even get more on the Ioniq anyway, because it is really kind of good, except in winter when it's a lot less. But actually, so just going back, Electriverse was a really, really good option. So for anybody who's going on holiday and they've not been touring around Europe, get the Electriverse app. It's really, really easy to use, and also you don't get those pre-auths.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a bonus.
And and also, I mean, I can't remember whether we got that in Europe, but you do get discounts at certain times in the UK on the Electriverse. So it does make a massive difference. And there is one specific charging CPO that I'm not going to say, but my husband managed to get 3 of them working at different times, and I was like absolutely gobsmacked. So I think he has like the Midas touch.
Can I bring him on holiday then with me? That sounds
he'd probably be happy to fit in your boot or something. That's going to tell me off now. But so going back to storytelling, and actually, do you know what? I'm going to just jump on now, because we're talking about charging anyway. Yeah. Let's talk about who you're working with when it comes to CPOs, and what that story was for you to kind of go, start working with charge point operators.
Oh yeah, so it's an interesting story. In fact, it brings us back to Europe and to ARC, which is ARC Europe is the network of breakdown clubs, if you like, across Europe, and it's got about 33 countries represented, but there's a core of a smaller core of founding organisations, of which the AA is one. And way back, I say way back, it's probably about 6 years ago, but it feels like it was the beginning of a new chapter. The ANWB, which is the AA equivalent in the Netherlands, had done something similar with branching into providing customer service support for CPOs. It fits, right? It's for us, it's courtesy and care. It's that it's at the core of what we do. We've got that kind of customer service expertise, but also it's looking to the future and keeping drivers going, keeping you on the road if there's a problem, whatever that might be, if it's a mechanical problem with your car, or in this case, if there's something preventing you from getting the charge you need at the time you need it. So we unashamedly, and you may remember Dean Hedger, who was at the AA at the time. He's now at I247. Dean was the one who went over on this fact-finding mission to ANWB, stole all their ideas, came back, and we set this up. And I mean, it has just gone from strength to strength. I think at the last count, we of all the charge posts in the ground in the UK, we are providing customer service on the phone for about 1 in 3, which is huge, right? And it's probably something people don't realise that we do. And it's it's part of that overall kind of cradle to grave support that we provide for vehicles. But it also, what I really like about it is that the people ultimately, so coming back, right, so customer service over the phone at the moment, that's what we're doing. It's incredibly successful. We have access to the information that we need from all the CPOs that we work with that allows us to resolve about 95% of issues over the phone. So it's that, and that's fantastic. And for the CPOs, again, that we work with, where there is now a regulatory requirement to be reliable and to solve these problems, that's great, and we can provide all the reporting that backs that up. What we're looking to do, and what we're trialling with some of our CPOs, is to actually then have a second line support of people who are actually going to go out in vans for those things that can't be fixed over the phone but need someone to go and, open up a flap and press a button, or, do whatever needs to be done. And what's really cool about that is that the people who are being trained to do that are in many cases people who currently help with misfueling. So you've put petrol in your diesel or vice versa. We provide a service, fuel assist. It's been going for quite a few years now. Because I think when we introduced it, we kind of thought that there might be a technical solution to this at some point, but people still managed to put the wrong fuel in. So there's still this requirement. But over time, obviously, and the job that those guys do is amazing. They'll just come and onto a forecourt and suck out all the contaminated fuel, so that you don't need to have a really costly visit to your main dealer, and get people on their way. But those jobs will decline as we change our fuel type, and there are more EVs. So then they can be skilled to resolve new fueling problems, right? So I really like that. I really like the way that's looking at that future need and looking to people and saying, you're valuable to us, so we'll skill you to do something different, but something that will enable us to carry on providing that service. So yeah, it's a great service, and it's very much valued, I think, by, well, we've all been there, right, when you're at a charge post and it's not working and it's frustrating. Yep. So don't be scared, phone the number. Might be us, or it'll be someone there. It'll be someone who knows what they're doing.
And I was going to say that again, going back to that level of trust, you know that providing those add-ons for the charge point operators to me it's twofold. here. You are providing trust and that level of support, but you're also, when you're looking at your patrol officers or whoever it is, you've got those transferable skills. You're providing them with transferable skills, and people who talk about, kind of there's misinformation. I talk about this a lot on the podcast out there, and people talk about skills and things like that. But actually, if we look at some of the roles that are currently out there, whether they're digital, IT or whatever, 10, 20 years ago when you first started, 25 years ago when you first started at the AA, they weren't around, were they? So what you're doing is you're upskilling your technicians for the future, and people need to kind of recognise that, really, don't they? That's what will happen in future. Yes, we're going to be using less fossil fuel vehicles, but replacing it with skills in just, it's still automotive, but going off in a different digital electronic direction.
And that skill, that making sure people have got those skills is really important for us. So all of our breakdown patrols are trained to IMI levels to ensure that they can all deal with an electric vehicle. They might, because at the moment obviously we've got 7% of vehicles on the road being electric. They're not good. They might have a day where they don't deal with an electric vehicle at all, but when they do, they've got that skill set to be able to sort that breakdown in a safe way. And we've got further upskilling going on of patrols to high levels where there's greater concentration of electric vehicles. And the digital side of things, that's really interesting. We've just, the AA's just appointed our first head of AI. So that's that. And
cool.
And again, we had an off-site conference last week, a leadership conference. We were talking about these kind of things, and these always ahead things that we need to be looking at for the future. And there is, whenever there's anything new, there's a fear, I guess, of how that's going to change people's jobs and change people's roles. But there is so much that can be helped and made faster and made more efficient, and taking away some of the less value add aspects of people's roles to allow them to really focus on where they're going to add strategic value. So looking forward to working.
I was going to say that they're human currently. I take it the head of AI. Sorry. Sorry.
I can vouch for that, having met him actually in the flesh. Either that or he's a very good hologram. But no, absolutely, definitely human so far.
But I think actually, and I'm a very, very big fan of AI. I really am, because there are so many things that you can do with it. And I do understand the argument about offsetting carbon footprint. And I was reading something at the weekend about where some of the data centres are, and they're in very hot areas where there's hardly any water, and they need water to cool a lot of these kind of data centres down. This is in the States, not here, funnily enough. But actually, so I do understand about the carbon offsetting, and that is something we need to be looking at. But AI as a tool, it's not going to go away.
No.
My son would like to think it was, because he just has got these totally, for a 19-year-old, he's totally against levels of AI with regards to kind of his is more on the art side of things.
Yeah, no, I absolutely no, I completely agree. Actually, there was a I'm going to misquote it now because I won't be able to remember it exactly, but it's basically something around you don't want you want something that does the menial stuff so that you can focus on the art, rather than someone doing your art so you can focus on the menial stuff. Is a much better. I'm misquoting that so badly. You wouldn't believe I work in communications, but it's that, isn't it? And that's what we want. That's what we want AI, machine learning to do, robots to do. We want them to do things that are not, what's the word I'm looking for? Fulfilling, maybe.
Yeah, and actually, like you say, there are a lot of things that it can take on to make so, and then it makes those fulfilling aspects of people's roles more, it makes them able to do that. So rather than doing all the crappy admin side of stuff that not everybody likes, some people really like it. I'm not a big fan, but I want to try and make sure that's my continuous improvement background. I want to make changes to make my life easier and other people's.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
I think the other thing is, from a data point of view, the AA is we have millions of data points, hundreds of millions of data points. We're attending, 3.5 million breakdowns a year. We've got 16 million, drivers, members, cars that we're covering from a breakdown point of view. We've got all of our insurance customers. We've got our driving school customers. If you think all of those data points, and particularly on the vehicle side of things, from the the data that's coming from all of those breakdowns over 120 years, having to have a way to be able to find patterns in that data and to translate that into making people's lives easier. We already have developed a brilliant I guess AI machine learning model that's looking at vehicle health and can predict when vehicles are going to break down. It can actually say before you've got a problem that you're going to have one, which just gives people so much more control. And from the B2B side of things, gives fleets in particular just so much more ability to plan and to reduce times that vehicles are off the road. And so that's, again, coming back to you always ahead, that's going to be the future of breakdown. Is actually, controversially, you don't want to break down. There are still, but people will still always need somebody to come to them at the side of the road.
Of course they will. Yeah.
And we know at the moment the top two causes of breakdowns in both ICE and electric vehicles are tyres and 12-volt batteries. And the vehicle health insights can predict some of that, where and when that's going to happen. But we'll still be sending people out.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, thinking back to what you were saying about the charge point operators, having that that kind of understanding and learning, machine learning about the various charge points. So, because, a lot of the CPOs currently have got a varied number of pieces of hardware, and then you've got all the different bits and pieces that go inside it. So you've got the back office systems, you've got the connectivity to actually connect to kind of Wi-Fi or satellite or whatever you want, and all of that, and then you've got the payment system as well, haven't you? So if you can monitor, I know charge point operators kind of monitor remotely, kind of a lot of their systems. But sometimes it's, and I've found this with working with a few organisations, that it's not necessarily proactive, it's more reactive. So what you're talking about is that is implementing change to make it proactive, to support the CPO, aren't you, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're obviously collecting lots and lots of data points on the calls that we get, what's caused the frustration, what is it that's gone wrong, what that impact has been, what time of day, what parts of the country. So there is a lot of data there as well. So that it's difficult with, there's a richness and a value and a real potential in having lots and lots of data, but there's also a frustration and there's just too much. But having those kind of systems and processes in place, and again, that we've already started to work in, but building on that and just being able to see those patterns and to be proactive, as you say.
Because you want to have reports for the right reasons, don't you? Because there are some companies that I know, and this is not anybody in this sector, but previously, where they'll kind of reports are run for reports basis, and actually somebody will have it sat in their inbox for ages and not really look at it. You need to have you need to have insights to demonstrate whether that that report is worth running, or whether you tweak it and organise something else. Because if nobody's looking at it, then there's no point, is there?
Yeah, that's very true. I was reminded of this again last week. We were talking about what's the there was a stat. What was the biggest PowerPoint deck that was presented in a meeting? Because Susan can work this out, and it was something like 180 slides.
Oh my God.
Well, I think obviously appendices, but then yeah, and I remember actually myself inheriting some reports on NPS and customer satisfaction that I had to present to one of our customers on a quarterly basis, and I inherited these reports that were about 30 pages long. And what used to happen was when it got to my turn, it was always when the sandwiches came out, and I like sandwiches. So they'd say, "Oh, Kirsty, you carry on, and we'll just eat the sandwiches." So,
oh, how rude!
No, so it did prompt me. The sandwich unavailability did prompt me to look at that report and say, actually, do you know what? No one's really listening, probably because they're eating sandwiches. But no, we don't need the first 25 pages. Actually, what's really important, and the bits that we discuss and the bits where the insight are in those last 5 pages. So let's just have those, and then we can all eat our sandwiches together.
Yeah.
But it's just, and it has more. If you distill down, like you're saying, you know, what are those nuggets of information? What is it that we really need to focus on and report on? That's very good point, Liz.
But it's hard. It's hard, and I'm going to say so. My the white paper that we put together at Full Circle last year, called Plugging Into the Future, that was long. That was about 40 odd pages. I know it was, and probably I can imagine that there would be people. There were a lot of people that downloaded it, but it's really hard when you put something together. I'd never ever written a white paper before. And actually, I wanted everything to be in it, you know. But you can't. If I did it do it a second time, which it probably at some point we will do. You know, it is about kind of going, okay, let's rationalise it, and it was rationalised actually, funnily enough, down to those 40 odd pages. But it's not easy. But yeah, it's over time, like you say, if you do the same thing and you're presenting, it's about kind of pulling it back in, isn't it, a bit?
Yeah, it is. But it's having the right level of detail for the right audience. And this is coming back to the communications thing, right? So if I'd been presenting to the head of customer satisfaction, they probably would have been really happy to go through the whole 30 pages, but I wasn't. And actually the information, the insight that those people needed was distilled. And that's why I like, you know, some of the content work that we do. We can have a big, long, detailed, chunky version that the technical experts or, you know, the real after sales experts want to delve into. But then there's the 2-minute version, and then there's the 10-second soundbite, right? So you've got you can really make the most of that content. I was reading I was browsing LinkedIn over the weekend, and there was a kind of top 10 tips for B2B marketers. And as you do, I thought, I'll know all these, obviously. A couple of them were eye-opening, but there was one in there that I really, really agreed with, which was about content, which is reuse your content. Like your white paper, so much insight, and it's so you can keep talking about that. keep bringing it up, chunk it into bits, and
you did,
and exactly, and particularly because there's a lot of investment that goes into content, whether it's time and focus and energy and goodwill, or whether it's paying someone else to do research for you or copyright for you or put lovely images together. So work it, baby, work the content.
And you know, and we didn't do this, and I should have done, but going back to AI, there is I can't remember what it's called now. Michelle, who works with me, would be able to tell me straight away, but there is a way that you can create an AI podcast by putting in a PDF of a document into this one system, and it'll do like a little interview of 2 AIs going, oh yes, and it's this bit and that bit and blah blah blah, which is so cool.
And there'll be an AI Liz and Kirsty doing this. How do they know we're not? We could be AI. We could be.
But it actually, because people like to hear. I remember talking to Kate Tyrrell. We kind of had a podcast in January going over the kind of the white paper, because Kate said, I'm not going to read 40 odd pages, so hopefully somebody will want to listen to this, you know. But again, like I say, the little short podcast, or I think it was only about 9 minutes, that you can kind of just take a whole paper and it's been summarised in a short-ish soundbite.
Yeah.
Well,
Perfect.
You know, it'd have been better if it had been my voice, but that was the reason why I didn't share it, because it wasn't. But they don't. Who wants to hear me wanging on all the time? Oh, you lot do. Who are listening and watching?
Yes, we do. Queen of podcasts.
Oh, hey, that'd be cool. But so let's just go back to kind of events and things, because you are at so many of them, including next week, of course. But when you kind of go to a big event like Everything Electric, what are the common misconceptions that people think about EVs? I suppose Everything Electric is different because there are a lot of people who are curious anyway, aren't they? But there's always that level of, like Carfest, you guys were at Carfest last year, weren't you? And I bet that was a very, very, I kind of went to one of the days, but I can imagine what the AA would be kind of, you know, have kind of all these misconceptions coming up against.
Yeah, I mean, we've all come up against them. The concerns about running out of charge. And it's not so much even range anxiety. It's, I think, people are worried that they're more likely to run out of charge in an electric vehicle than they are to run out of fuel in an ICE vehicle. As you know, we keep very close eye on stats from within our own breakdown set. And I think we're now down to, if you take all the EV breakdowns that we attend, so fewer now than 2% of them are because someone's run out of charge. I think it's 1.85% is the very precise number, but we expect that to very soon be down at 1%, which is the same percentage of ICE breakdowns that are due to running out of fuel. And even in those 1.85%, actually a big percentage of those, they haven't run out of charge, but people are scared that they're about to, because they can see there's only 5 miles. They know it's 6 miles to the nearest charge point, and because something's gone wrong with the journey plans usually. So that's a big one. I think there's worry about costs, and actually that is a very valid concern for lots of people. We did some research recently amongst our members, and cost is obviously something that people worry about. And for a lot of people, they don't buy brand new vehicles, they're buying used vehicles. And used to having a cost there's kind of levels, aren't there, if you're buying a used vehicle, but being able to find a vehicle that's cost effective, people worry about that. I think there's been a lot of changes in the used vehicle market, and there are now really, really good value electric vehicles. So being able to talk to people about that and how that they can ensure with the right AA vehicles inspection, for example, that the used EV they're buying is roadworthy. I think the charging piece, and again, there are valid concerns for people. 40% of our members, for example, have no access to a driveway to charge. So, and we know it's much more cost effective to charge at home than it is to charge when you're out and about. One of the things that Edmund and the team still campaigning for is to try and make the VAT position a bit fairer for people who have to use charging out and about. So there are those worries. Some of it's misconceptions, and some of it, I think, is because it's a concern and a worry, it overshadows then the want to find out more. And again, looking at our member base, about 50% of our members, and the AA members, and they're not representative 100% of the country as a whole, but they're a pretty big data set. So 50% are what we call EV potentials. So they're very or quite likely to be looking at an electric vehicle for their next vehicle in the next 5 years. Then you've got 20% who are doubters, so they're there to be convinced. And this is where you hear Edmund talk about the hesitant but not hostile. So the data, they're really not sure. And again, they might be amongst the 40% who can't charge at home, or they might be looking for a cheaper used vehicle. But and then there's quite a big group, 22%, who just at the moment are saying, I'm never going to have one, and I don't care what changes.
Because they see it being forced to do something.
Yeah, exactly. So, but there's that's a really big pool of people that we can help and reassure, and there is a real gap for a concerted public awareness campaign to fight those misconceptions and to look at those worries that are genuine and say, okay, how could those be mitigated, and what can we as the AA do to help, and what can we do to persuade government, and how can we work with partners. And on the B2B side of things, we have been, I think our first EV perception survey of fleet managers was about 10 years ago. And really interesting then that the concerns and those barriers to thinking about electric vehicles are so different to now. So the top barrier would have been, there isn't a good selection of vehicles. But people just said, well, I can't, there aren't many electric vehicles out there. Well, we don't have that issue now, and very few people are saying it's because there aren't good choices of cars, right? There are other things now. So things change, and perception changes. But we've all got our part to play, and the AA as much or more than most, because we are there to represent drivers. We're there to create confidence for drivers, and part of that confidence is to not have those worries and anxieties about change in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, really important for us.
I was going to say, at some point, and I know that 22% is still a big chunk of people, isn't it, that you were talking about, but I still think we're going to get to a tipping point, aren't we, where kind of the rest of them who've maybe been hesitant or whatever, they weren't hostile. You've got the 20% hostile, but actually at some point you're going to have enough people to get that 22% come down, at least a proportion, because that tipping point is, do you know what, actually you're going to know somebody out there who's got an EV and will be able to attest for the fact that it's not what you think it is.
I think you're right. And again, I'm looking down because I wrote some stats down from this research. I just found it so interesting. And Liz, I don't know if it's possible I can give you the link, and maybe we can, because I think people might be really interested in it, and people could go and download it for themselves. But yeah, of those 22% rejectors, only 8% of them have driven an EV. So there is a huge pool of them that, they have never given it a try. In fact, 73% overall of ICE drivers have never had any experience of an EV, but distilled into that group that are absolutely adamant. But we all know, I think my dad is a bit like one of those. If he listens to this podcast, I love you, Dad, but yeah, he is convinced that EVs are just never going to be for him, and maybe not, but
depends on their age as well, and I'm sorry Kirsty's dad, I don't know how old you are, but it depends on their age, whether you can keep driving them if you've got a used vehicle. If you've not, you can keep driving it for however long. It's just new cars that you can, new ICE vehicles you can't get. So keep driving it if you want to, but the more you're polluting it, the more you're polluting, and you're kicking out that crap out of your exhaust pipe, the more people are breathing that in. That's your kids, your grandkids, your nephews, your nieces, etc., etc.
That's it's interesting you said that, because you kind of assume that everybody understands what kind of 2035 means, but no, actually there was a percentage. It was quite a low percentage. I think it was about 7% of people in the survey said they thought that literally on I don't know 31st of December 2024 2034 there's going to be a big bonfire of ICE vehicles or something
God.
that they get taken away. But no, you're right. That's obviously not the case.
So I'd like to get to that tipping point where people like your dad might sort of change his mind, but
you never know. I stick him in the back of mine. He's been in mine a few times. Isn't it lovely and smooth and quiet, Dad? Isn't it a lovely drive? We'll see if we get there. But it's we're all doing it, right? We're all doing the EV evangelism, and I was really, really privileged and kind of gobsmacked last December to be given an EV Champions Award by Greenfleet.
Yes.
So I do feel that it is my duty. I've got the Glass Award on my bookcase, so I need to actually translate that into championing. But as I said, we all have to be, and particularly from an AA point of view, we do have to be really conscious of people being fearful, and helping, whether it's to bust those myths or whether it's actually just helping to make those hurdles less onerous, and just try and get to the point where we can just dismiss everyone's concerns and say, well, no, that's not true, and that's fine. Because in some cases we have to obviously understand for people that it isn't going to work for them in their particular circumstance right now. So we can all help to make that happen.
And it is that united voice. So I'm going to ask you one final question. So what is coming up next for the AA and Kirsty, other than Greenfleet, except other than the Europa rally next week? What are kind of the next phases for the AA, or what would you like to see from the AA in future?
So I think there's from a B2B point of view, a continuation of the work we've been doing over the last few years to really diversify and there's a word we use, productize. It's a horrible word because it's not really a word, but to take some of the things that we do already for our customers that are not breakdown cover, and package them up to say to everybody, look, we can do these other things. It's not just all about breakdown cover. We are really brilliant at other things to do with the way that you manage or drive your vehicles, and we've obviously got our drive tech range of products and services, and we're really investing in, again, coming back to that AI, really investing in using software to analyse driver behaviour and bring interventions forward through our Halo products, and really looking forward to pushing those and talking to customers about how they could use those. We've got accident management, which again is a kind of point of need service, but we're now able to report and do claims online, and we've got an AI claims assistant, so it's all sort of zipping into the future. And then SMR, so service maintenance repair, and particular mobile mechanics. So we're working with our colleagues in the SMR side of the business to talk about how we can bring a yellow van to your driveway or your place of work or your depot, and that there's a huge expansion in that service. And of course the vehicle health insights, and that kind of data, being able to use that 120 years of breakdown experience to predict and prevent when vehicles are going to break down. So that's all. I know, Liz, I'm just going to forget something. I'm going to come out of the podcast and someone's going to say, oh, what, you didn't mention our thing. So there's all of that work that we're doing on the product side of things. And then from the marketing side and the communications, again, so we'll be carrying on with all the events and the partnerships and the sponsorships and working out what part we can play in the kind of public awareness around EVs in particular, but other aspects of motoring in the future. And we haven't even talked about self-driving vehicles. We'll leave those for another day.
I'll get you back for another one to talk about that. Seriously. Honestly, it's been so insightful, Kirsty. You've just been brilliant. I really, really appreciate all of this.
I hope it's been helpful. It's been lovely talking to you as always.
It's been amazing talking to you as well, honestly. And I'm sure everybody watching and listening will agree that Kirsty is just so down to earth and honest and just a lovely person. I've got so much out of this conversation, and don't worry about it. If there are products that you have forgotten to tell us about, you can always we can put them in the show notes if I've got enough room. But listen, so thank you, Kirsty. It's been an amazing conversation. I've really, really appreciated it. And to all of you kind of watching and listening, thank you. I always say this, thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a like and a subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast, share it. We've got all of our episodes on YouTube. They're all on the different audio platforms. And we also post on LinkedIn. And we've got an Electric Evolution podcast page as well. So you can always keep an eye out for that one on LinkedIn. But thank you. And just want to say thanks, Kirsty. And to everybody else watching and listening, I'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Liz.
Bye. Thanks for watching Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're a charge point operator, local authority or stakeholder in EV charging, I'd love to talk to you about our Charge Point Evolution framework. It's designed to help you create a seamless EV driver journey, boost utilisation and maximise your return on investment. Alternatively, if you know someone who'd be a great podcast guest or might be interested in sponsoring an episode, you can email me on liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. Thanks again for watching.